takes a while before it starts recording. So you have to wait until the stop recording button comes up and then we can start. We're just waiting for the button to pop up.
Oh.
I know. Yeah. We can also cut out the beginning parts, so they don't have to worry about that being cringe. It takes like 15 seconds or something.
Yeah, because you can just edit in on YouTube, right?
Yeah, just like shorten the beginning, shorten the end. Conclusive.
Fantastic. Are you sure this is recording?
It should be pretty soon. And
There.
yeah, recording. All right, cool.
Okay. So interesting.
All right, any topic you want to bring up?
Any topic, but this is the first episode.
Yeah.
So should we?
We can talk about anything. It's a free thinking podcast.
Yes, of course. But I mean, I guess should we not have like an introduction or something?
About who we are.
Perhaps.
All right.
I don't know. If,
Yeah, that's
if it's interesting.
All right. Let's start with that. Like who you are, what you like to do, and
why we are here.
Why are we here?
In the great span of time.
How did it start?
Yes, exactly.
And we can talk about I suppose also some philosophical views, and then we can we roll with that. We are like the Joe Rogan experience.
Of course.
Except more Joe Rogan-y.
Yeah.
Oh, less Joe Rogan. Less steroids, more.
That's true.
All right, fuck it. Let's start. Hello and welcome to the Freethinkers podcast. My name is Alan.
And my name is Hugo.
Yeah, quite a great name if I say so myself, Hugo.
Well, thank you.
Of course, my good friend. So let's perhaps start with an introduction, shall we? Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. So my name is Hugo Martinsson. I come from a small place from nowhere, really.
Bumfuck nowhere?
No, yeah, pretty much. Nobody knows about it. And I am joined by the most prestigious of men who have ever lived.
Oh, thank you.
In this span of time, which is Adam.
Yes, indeed. I'm Adam Imamovic. I'm 17, turning 18 in less than a month. Happy early birthday to myself. I live here in the middle of central Jönköping. I come from a very, very dystopian place, post-communistic Bosnia. But yeah, that's me, I suppose. And
happy to be here.
Exactly, very happy to be here. I guess we can start on that. Why are we here?
Yeah, why are we here? Well, first of all, we know why we are here.
Yeah,
do we?
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Who knows?
It was one fateful night in like April, I think.
Yeah.
Where I was studying for end of year exams, and and I was bored, and I saw you, and I came over to you, and I was like, "Hello there," and then we proceeded to have a 4-hour long discussion about everything.
A bunch of random shit. I don't know. I think the IB in general.
Yeah.
Since I pretty much got, how would you say, like, I got scammed. I'd call it that. Since I wasn't aware of the
oh yeah, I had to explain that, and then we started going on a rant about Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, and life itself and religion. We talked about about religion.
And that is way too much. Anyway, I think where should we start? Where do you want to start? Okay, first thing that comes to you. What's the first word that comes to your head when I say Canada?
Jordan Peterson.
That's exactly what I was going for.
or Justin Trudeau.
All right, do you want to start with that? Do you think a political leader should be like him? Is that where you want in a political leader? Not to make it too political, but from a philosophical standpoint.
Yeah, probably.
You think so?
Yeah, since I think that, I mean, it's hard. I think that Jordan Peterson, as like his personality is, he has a strong personality, and it's hard to explain, but I think that his views are really interesting. I'm not quite sure. We aren't supposed to make this too political.
Most about philosophy, if anything.
It's kind of hard though to put
yeah, because they are very interchangeable, and I think we have to get political at some point.
Yeah, it's just that I'm not quite sure where Jordan Peterson stands like politically.
He's quite, I would say, right-leaning, if not alt-right, to some people. It depends on who you are.
Because it's so weird, because he himself has told, like, he has said that he also, like, he he really likes the old like socialists ideas, but he isn't really like. I guess he's a very controversial person. It's kind of hard to like.
He is a very polarizing figure, and I think the issue with that is anything he says will and often is used out of context. There are a lot of things that he says and that I do agree with, and a lot of things that he says that I don't agree with.
Mhm.
I think mainly we can start with the philosophical standpoint of, I suppose this will make it way too political, but
we are free thinkers.
we are free thinkers. That's the thing. But yeah, no, he has very often criticized the transgender community, and which, in my opinion, does bring him down a lot as a philosopher, because I think if you can't be open-minded as a philosopher, you shouldn't be considered a philosopher. Well, where's your son on that? Do you think?
Yeah, I can understand that, and he, especially in later days, he has talked a lot about religion, and he has talked a lot about especially Christianity and Islam. But it isn't like, I don't know if he doesn't really take a standpoint. Like, I mean, I think he is Christian, if I'm not mistaken.
I would assume so.
Yeah, but he isn't, he's taking it objectively when it comes to religion, at least. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose it depends as well. And Jordan Peterson is perhaps one of the most famous modern philosophers, at least in the lifetime that we have lived. So I think he has a lot more and better resources than other philosophers when it comes to, because he has more knowledge when it comes to actually drawing a conclusion. But even then, you can use someone like an Aristotle, who was way ahead of his time by 5,000 years or so. But, way ahead of his time when it came to philosophy, at least. But let's start there. Who is like your favorite philosopher in, say, history?
In history,
yeah.
It would probably be the Swedish. I think he both is a. He's not a psychologist. He's more of a theorist and historian, but it's the Swedish historian Dick Harrison. I don't know if you've heard about him.
No, I don't believe I have.
He's very focused on the medieval period, especially in Sweden, and I'm very interested in particularly Swedish history. So yeah.
What are some of his main points?
He's doing a lot of probably like the social development during and the first development of a Swedish state during the early medieval period, which is pretty interesting since there's been two Swedish states. There was one in the very early medieval, almost Viking ages, end of that, but it kind of fell apart since there wasn't since during that time Norway and Denmark had already formed, so the areas around Sweden was made up of so many different states and tribes and kingdoms and duchies, so there wasn't really much resistance on the Swedish side. So, but yeah, he does talk about a lot of interesting topics regarding Swedish history. So
that's quite interesting.
Who's your favorite historian?
Historian?
Yeah.
That's weird. I wouldn't quite say historian, but more a philosopher. I'm quite torn because I quite like a lot of different people's perspectives and views and whatnot. And I think it's quite important to be able to not fully commit yourself to one person and their beliefs, because I think you're stuck in an echo chamber. I think you have to be able to take the good and the bad and separate them. But we can take someone like a Nietzsche, for example, right? Nietzsche is, I agree with a lot of his ideas, but at the same time I also disagree with a fair amount of his ideas. But I think one of the more coherent pieces in his work is, for example, the multiverse theory, which brings up the discussion and the I suppose the entire theory about the multiverse, which is you will live an endless life. You will wake up and and what you think is free will, what you believe is free will, right? The words you say, the actions you do, the thoughts you're thinking are all predetermined. So everything you do in this lifetime, the second you die, you will wake up as a baby and do all the actions, do all the thoughts, do all the words you've done all over again in a separate universe. And this will just keep continuing and going and going and going forever and ever. It's self-imprisonment.
So it's like it's a repeating cycle, basically.
Yeah. And he was one of the first people to propose that theory. And I definitely think I think as time has gone on and we have realized more and more that it's essentially what started the entire theory about the multiverse, but B, living in a simulation, which has, been a more and more popular thought as we've advanced our technology and knowledge about this world throughout the years. So I definitely think that he was way ahead of his time on that front. And we can start on that as well with creationists versus atheists. I mean, we can probably bring up the entire discussion that a Danish philosopher had, Kierkegaard. He made this very famous book called Either or. I'm sure you've heard about it.
No, actually, I'm not.
Yeah, it's
or perhaps I have.
Maybe it's called Either/or, and it's based on. Well, his work is brings up two lives, right? Either you have the aesthetic life, you live a great life, and I suppose, yeah, you live a very aesthetic life, right? You enjoy life for what it is, you drink, you have fun, but you're not very moral. That's the downside of it. You're very immoral, and that's ultimately your device. Whilst the second part of the book, or his work, is called Or, which focuses on a more moral life. It focuses on a more creation. I suppose, yeah, it's a more moral life, but you don't only get to enjoy all of life's riches. You restrain yourself into the teachings of a higher power, and you eventually just accept the moral life. And ultimately, Kierkegaard's conclusion or precursor to all of this is you have a choice between choosing either the beautiful aesthetic but depressingly immoral life, or the depressing in life but moral life that is Or. So you can choose either or. And you're bound to make this decision at some point in your life, and there is no telling of which one you should choose to begin with. So Kierkegaard argues that you should take a leap of faith and accept the Or as your life and live a moral but boring life, which is where I disagree with his conclusion. But I definitely think that the beginning of that you have to choose one of the two options. I think that's definitely accepted. I accept that as a valid theory, where at some point in your life you will have to accept whether or not you choose to enjoy life for what it is right now, or if you choose to be moral and worry about every action you do. And that's where you can also start bringing in the creationist versus atheism arguments, which we've had before.
Yeah, exactly. We've talked about it a lot. It's kind of hard for me, since it's, especially if we go back to, I mean, just the meaning of life, perhaps. I don't know. It's a very big question, and it's kind of hard to like.
What is the meaning of life for you? For you?
Good question. You discussed a lot about just now about like choosing either to be immoral or like moral, and it's, for me, it's like, I mean, I choose to be moral, but perhaps it could in some way have the effect that other people who are immoral take my moral side as weakness, perhaps. I'm not quite sure. But I do believe that being moral is a important part of like your meaning of life, morality. But also, since I mean it's just they like a lot of people always say to try and stay in the present, which is really weird for me because, for example, I don't know if you yourself, like if you're aware of, if you've had the feeling that in our age right now, since yeah, you're turning 18 now and I'm 18, have you like had the feeling that time is going faster than it did in like when you were 6 or 5?
Perhaps to some extent, but I think the reason we feel that is because 1 year now is not as heavy as a year when you were 6, or when you were 10. 1 year between you 39 and 10 is 10% of your life. 1 year from now till you're 19 is roughly what, 6% of your life. So 1 year is being a smaller and smaller portion of your life, and I think that's what's ultimately making your perception be faster of time, even though time is constant and stays the same.
Yeah, because like the whole like when you start researching about like time, and especially Einstein's theory that time is relative, and that, for example, we know that if we created a device that could, or a transport that could take us faster than the speed of light, we would also in a way create a time machine, since when you're going at that speed, you're going so fast that time moves faster for you than the people that aren't going in the same speed. So you basically end up in the future.
Yeah, you indirectly create a time machine to some extent. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you're always in the future to some extent, right? There is a gap between what your mind thinks and the force it puts out, and the micro milliseconds that it takes for those thoughts to travel down with the neurons to your mouth to express those thoughts. So in a way, your mind is in the future, to some extent, right?
Yeah.
But future is also constant. We know we will be in the future to some extent. I know that in 2 minutes' time, I will arrive in 2 minutes' time. I will be there. Not for sure, but there's 99% chance I'll be there. Unless I have a heart attack in the next 2 minutes. So time is a guarantee, but I can also guarantee that the universe as we know it will exist in 5,000 years. That's a guarantee, and it's always been. Just because it's like the chances of time stopping or being a change in an instance in our puny lifetimes, in what, the 80 years or so that we live, over a 14 billion lifespan, is so minuscule that we are in turn, I suppose, nothing. We are worthless to time and the great concept. I mean, imagine that. Even humans, the human existence has only been for 10,000 years, which sounds like a lot of time. Or actually, I'll be generous. I'll say 20,000 years even, if you want to take in Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
So we've existed for 20,000 years out of what, 14 billion years. 20,000 years in 14 billion years is absolutely nothing. It's a drop in a fucking sea, right?
Yeah.
So our existence is in some extent worthless.
And like the realization of that could, I mean, for some people, I mean, at least for me, but also at the same time, I'm getting ahead of myself here.
No, go ahead.
Because when you first learn that the expansion of time and like you yourself in it is so insignificant, that when you first learned about it, you didn't really understand the concept, and so you didn't really feel any emotions to it. but when you really like actually take into consideration about it, it kind of changes your perspective.
Yeah, and in Earth's 14 billion year existence, the 20,000 years that we have lived is 0.0000014% of the entire lifetime's existence of the Earth's existence. We have lived for 0.0000014% of the Earth's existence, which is so puny. It's so small.
Yeah.
It's such a small fraction of time of where we have been here. But so I think it's asinine to think that we are special in any way to be here. We're not. We are so insignificant in the span of time. Time is so great, and more than likely we will be gone in the next 20,000 years. Humans will no longer be around. It's as simple as that.
And I also have a lot of theories to like that I want to ask you. I think the first one is probably since we were talking about simulations and stuff. One theory that I guess some scientists have are...
Is it shutting down the simulation?
No, not that. Like, it's more of that like the universe itself, since it was born, the universe was born, or at least we have the theory that since the universe is ever expanding, and the more it expands, the colder the universe gets, which means that at some point it must have been a lot hotter and like a much more...
Yeah.
It's a big topic, but anyway.
No, I understand that completely.
But since we have the perception of life that if something must be born, it must also die. And we are aware that stars and planets can die. So the theory is, how is the universe going to die? Is it going to expand in on itself? Is it going to expand so much outward that it just, I don't know, will implode? Or that's the first theory, but or will it just keep expanding?
No, I can see what you mean there, and I think the universe eventually will die. I think because it is ever expanding, right? I think eventually it will hit a limit. It will hit a wall. The universe can no longer expand, and it's simple physics. It hits a wall. It's bound to get the same energy that it hits that wall with, or the end of the universe with it. It's bound to bounce back, so it will just implode in on itself. It will go supernova, if you will.
And I mean, what's outside the invisible universe? What is it? Is it just a wall, or is it just nothing at all?
I think it's nothing at all.
Or are we like, are like brains so incapable of like
comprehending
what's outside of
I think that
reality?
Yeah, because then we can go into discussion about the fourth dimension.
Yeah.
Because like we live in a third dimension. We can see depth, base, and length, right? But say, for example, that we were to see someone living in a 2D world. If you were at a right angle, at a precise angle, this someone in a 2D world can't see a creature in a 3D world. Now that can also go for a 4D world. A creature living in 4D will never can always be at a position where creatures living in a three-dimensional world will never be able to see creatures living in a three-dimensional world, right?
Yeah.
So for all we know, there could be a four-dimensional. So there are things that we don't understand about the universe. So I think, and to even comprehend the fourth dimension for us, it's too large for our brains. We can't comprehend the fourth dimension, right? We can understand the physics behind it and how it works, but if we were to actually live in a fourth dimension, I don't think we would be able to understand the true depths. I think our brain itself wouldn't be able to comprehend that. And as great as the human brain is, it hasn't changed over the last 10,000 years. A caveman from 10,000 years ago has the exact same brain as we have today, right? So even then, it's like you can't really bring in the argument that we have advanced past that and we made us smarter, because we haven't. There is no argument in that. And imagine how how a caveman 10,000 years ago would be so blown away by today's technology. If you were to show him a fucking iPhone today, I don't think his brain would comprehend it. Right? Now imagine that same situation, but for us as the caveman, the situation. And if aliens came down here on Earth with some super technology, we wouldn't be able to comprehend it. We would lose our collective minds.
Yeah, and that's also another theory that I wanted to discuss with you, and that is the theory of where is all intelligent life in the universe, or at least in our galaxy, and the theory that since our universe lifespan is so immense, the theory is that the intelligent alien civilizations already have existed, but in the past, and they've already died out, or that perhaps alien intelligent life will evolve a lot in the future, a lot further in the future, like after we've gone extinct. Since I mean, pretty much all life gets they have its end at some point.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Unless we are able to perhaps
find them, yeah. And I think that's where you start bringing this discussion about intelligent life or life in general, because I'm fairly certain that we have life in this very Milky Way. You can look at a moon like Titan, or Mars even, which is releasing a chemical which is produced by plants and other living creatures, or by a biological creature, right? Mars is emitting those chemicals, right? I forgot the name of the chemical now. I'm not too big in science, but if Mars is emitting that chemical, then it has to mean that life has been there at some point or another, whether it be plants or human existence or any other life form, right? So there's definitely been life on there. It's just a question of whether or not it's intelligent and what you even consider intelligent life, right? Can you consider a dolphin an intelligent being? Can you consider a panda an intelligent being? Would you consider an AI an intelligent being? Is intelligent beings who go above and beyond, living in a constant hunting and gathering situation? I mean, even then, you can argue that we still hunter gatherers. We hunt for food in more efficient ways. That's just the only difference. It's we still grow seeds, we still will grow crops, we still hunt in the ocean, and we're fishing or farm cows, which again, it's just hunting. It's just domesticated hunting. It's another way to hunt, and we also gather.
Developing base instincts and way of life.
Yeah,
basically.
What would you consider as intelligent life?
First of all, being aware, a consciousness, I think, is the first stage of intelligent life.
Do you think dogs have a consciousness?
And that's also a really good question to ask, actually. I'm not quite sure.
I would say they do.
Yeah, because they are well aware of their surroundings.
I would say any being that can make a choice is an intelligent being, right?
And I mean,
because a microbe can't really make a choice. I don't think a microbe can make a choice. It's stuck in its constant, not simulation, but in its constant cycle of, it has a biological thing, a biological DNA strand that tells it what to do.
Yeah.
To survive. But I think if you look at something like a leopard or an eye, or anything really, if an eye got the option to either stay in a tree or climb down, there is no instinctual DNA that says it has to climb down. It can stay in a tree if it wants to, right? So I think that's what makes the difference between an intelligent life form and not, right, having a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And that's also the thing, since an AI would, if we would put in that situation, I guess it's also, in a way, a sign of intelligent life is free will, I guess. But I mean, animals could have that too. It's just that I'm not quite sure if you would like more say, when we talk about free will, I would say that also in the same way that human free will could also be perhaps a more developed will that could have, well, like in comparison to a monkey perhaps or a dog. It's just that our free will is perhaps more developed in a sense, perhaps.
But do we truly have free will? Are we not locked into a simulation in some extent? For us to survive, we have to, go to school, go to work, work because then we'll get a magic number in our account that allows us to survive. It's just another way of survival for us, right? And if you don't do that, you will starve, you will die, you will be homeless. I mean, and you can look at the same way nature. They have the same free will. They have to hunt. It's just their way of, I suppose, if we put it in our terms, it's hunting. So in the same way it's working, it's getting money so it can buy stuff at a supermarket. But it's just for them that work is just to hunt something and to eat, right? So I think that's also where that comes into play. But yeah.
Interesting. And I'm not quite sure for how long we've been going on with this,
but but I think that's a good way to end it, and I think we can definitely discuss more on this in the next episode of Freethinkers, the greatest podcast in the universe.
Span of time.
The span
perhaps.
of time. The span of space. I have been the god of time, Alan, with the god of space itself, Hugo. I think we call it that.
Yeah.
Lovely.